So this is how to get people to take action. Um, I kind of built a flow for this so I could use it for myself, but essentially there's two things that humans are constantly wired to be alert, aware, and looking for. And that is to one, participate in whatever it is that they want to participate in, whether that be social clubs, activities, etc. Or it's to eliminate threats. They see a snake, they see a tiger, they see somebody from an enemy tribe, they see someone being abusive to someone else. They want to eliminate threats. Those are things that are hardwired into our brain that we cannot escape from. And so what ends up happening is these two things are the inspirations or the triggers to take action. Okay? And I'll relate all of this back to direct response in a second. But let's say that you see one of these, especially like eliminate threats, right? It's like you see an ad on the internet that says the one food that is making you, hold 50% more weight. It's like, okay, well, that's obviously a threat to my weight loss journey, right? And if I can cut it out, right, I can lose weight, and I want to participate in weight loss. So then you go to then your brain does this weird thing. It goes to the next thing, where it goes into info consumption. So what ends up happening is your brain goes, yeah, I would like to spend my attention consuming whatever it is that we need to do here to eliminate this threat, right? And this is actually how you get your sales letters read, right? So like if you write a headline that says the one food that's holding 50% more weight on your body, it's like, well, yeah, well, what's the food, right? And then here's what happens, okay? The way that your brain, the way that you as a human make decisions is by using your imagination to simulate what that decision would do, what that decision looks like, the amount of work that it takes, what you're going to have to do to do whatever it is that you want to do. Basically, your brain simulates it, right? Before you open a door, your brain has to think, all right, I'm going to put my hand on the doorknob and turn the handle, and it's going to open, right? Even if it's for 0.0001 seconds. That's just how it works. And so what ends up happening is your brain does a simulation. It goes, is this real or is this fake, right? So it does a hypothetical / reality check. Is this a story or is this reality, right? So then after it does that, if it perceives this to be a reality, then it will go into the next thing, right? If your brain perceives something to be hypothetical, it just kind of taps out because it's not relevant, right? Then it goes into the pain and gain simulation. So the pain and gain simulation is very simple. If you're in pain, your brain starts simulating that pain. For example, there's a super famous study, I'm sure you've heard about it, where they took like 10, sprinters or something, track runners, and they had them close their eyes and they hooked them up to a bunch of brain scan machines. And they said, hey, run the race in your mind. And actually the same areas of the brain lit up and their muscles lit up. Your brain is legitimately simulating it. So when you bring up painful experiences, losing a loved one, getting stabbed, salsa that's too hot, your body actually goes into a physical state that replicates that mental state. Same thing with gain. I could tell you a story about how I won $1 million, and you will feel like you won $1 million. You'll be all jazzed up. You'll be thinking about all the stuff you could buy. You'll be thinking about all the things you're going to do, the people that you're going to tell, etc. Your brain goes into a complete simulation, even though it's completely fake. You still go through the mental, emotional, and physical stimuli and responses that your body would actually do. It's also why a huge part of anxiety sucks, because you can give yourself anxiety just by thinking of stuff, and then you have anxiety, even though there's nothing real, right? So anyway, after that, you're going to go into what is called the reason, rationalization, or excuse phase. So, if you want to win the lottery, you're going to think of a reason to. Oh, I really want to buy a new house for my wife, etc. If you want to spend more money on a lottery ticket, right? So instead of buying one, you're going to buy 10. You're going to go, well, listen, if I buy 10, I have a better chance of winning. And if I'm going to spend money on one, I might as well spend money on 10, right? And then there's an excuse for your shortcomings. Hey, listen, I've never had enough money to buy 10 lottery tickets until now because my boss gave me a bonus. So you know what? I'm going to do it. That's the excuse. And your brain's going to oscillate between these three at any given time because now your brain knows what it wants. It wants to relieve itself of pain or gain something. And then it's going to come up with a reason, a rationalization, or an excuse to act on those feelings, right? Then it's going to go into what is called the consequence simulation. So, and this is basically exactly what I just described. You win the lottery. You buy 10 lottery tickets, you win the lottery, right? Well, is that enough justification to buy 10 lottery tickets? Most people would say yes, which is why they buy lottery tickets. But they do this whole like, well, I can't win the lottery unless I buy tickets. That's the I need to do something realization. Then they go, well, I need to buy 10 to improve my chances, right? And that's how they find a reason to do whatever it is they want to do. Literally, that's the flow. And then next, you get into the action trance, which is when they actually get in their car, drive to Circle K, buy the tickets, scratch them off, realize they've won nothing, and do it all again, right? And then they have the excuse trance. So if things go wrong, if things go badly, they always have a justification for it. They always have an excuse for it. Well, I bought 10 lottery tickets so that we could have a nice dinner on Friday night, honey, okay? So when I lost, I knew I had to go buy another 10 because I needed to make up money for the 10 that I spent, right? And this is just classic. I mean, this is classic human behavior. This is like classic human behavior, especially with addicts, right? I don't know if any of you have ever had family members who are addicts or been addicts yourself. I've had both. This is addict behavior 101, but everybody's an addict, right? So this is the flow. Now I'm going to pull up this green line. Oops, sorry. So I'm going to pull up this green line right here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to go through how to induce all of this with copy. Okay, so the very first thing, you cannot induce a threat and you cannot induce a desire to participate that must already be evident in the prospect. They must already think that they are too fat. They must have a desire to lose weight. If they're fat and don't have a desire to lose weight, there's nothing you can do, right? If they are fat and you think that by calling them fat, that's going to make them want to not be fat, you are absolutely right. However, what it is going to do is it's going to give them an excuse to go eat more Twinkies, right? So the joke's kind of on you. So what you do instead is you do a little bit of this, okay? When they get to the info consumption phase and the simulation induction, okay, when you tell stories, and no one really figures this out, right? But when you tell stories, people actually envision themselves as the characters as they're hearing the story. It's called narrative transportation. And so basically, whatever you do, and this is gold, whatever you do to somebody in a story, the reader feels it. So when you read a story and the main protagonist, the main hero, is being tortured, the prospect who's reading it feels tortured, okay? Now, if you tell them a story about how buying lottery tickets changed your life, you're going to run into one issue, which is they know at some point they're going to figure this out. They know at some point that you're trying to persuade them to buy more lottery tickets, especially if the commercial is sponsored by like a lotto. And so what you want to do is you want to use stories and then blend them with analogies and metaphors, right? So you take a story and you use a metaphor. For example, When I wanted somebody to buy something of mine, I told them a story about somebody who went after their dreams and didn't make it because that is one of their fears and that's what they want to do. And so what I did was I told them about a writer who wrote a bunch of books, but she never had the balls to actually send them to publishers. And then boom, right? Well, you learned all this data science stuff, but you never apply for jobs. Isn't it time to apply for jobs? Oh, you need help applying for jobs? Buy my thing, right? It's very easy, right? Um, that's how those two things work together. Value bait is all about, it's the opposite of clickbait. Clickbait is like very celeb, gossipy stuff. Value bait is like, hey, I'm gonna actually help you in this content, which of course you never do, but you make them think that you are, right? So you could say how I won the lottery 4 times by using the special ticket buying system, um, and without guessing which lottery numbers are important, right? So yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So that's how people think that they're actually going to get something out of that story. That's what keeps them there. That's the hook that is in their mouth, right? Now, when you're thinking about how to get people to take action, okay, you can't feed someone an excuse. And here's what I mean. I used to do phone sales quite a bit. And what I used to do is I used to feed people excuses, and it was the biggest rookie move I probably ever did. I'll probably do it again too, I'm sure, because I get nervous and that's what I resort to. However, so when I used to tell stories, right, I'd tell a story, and what I'd do is I'd go, well, listen, I had a client and he was really afraid to buy, just like you were, and what ended up happening to him is he took our course, and I think he took somebody else's course, and he finally bought his wife a car, which was like his biggest dream, right? And his wife went from resenting him and feeling like he's throwing away money and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, she got it. She realized that he had the vision that she didn't, and she loved him after that, right? Like they even got remarried and renewed their vows and all this other stuff. And so what I just did there is I planted the seeds of an excuse. Oh, I'm buying this for my family. Oh, I'm buying this to please my wife. I'm buying this to do X, Y, Z, right? And that's exactly what you want, right? I actually have a list of 25 excuses that I use over and over and over and over for people to do stuff that doesn't make any goddamn sense, and it works every time. And so that's what you got to put in the info consumption simulation induction phase, right? Then when you go into the pain and gain simulation, you just basically ask yourself, what do people have to gain? What do they have to lose? And what pain are they already in, right? People fear loss, people hate pain, and people want stuff, right? And if you can hit on one of those 3 things, and only one of those 3 things, that's important, okay? Then what's going to happen is you're going to give them something that shifts the blame from them onto something else. So if they get cancer, right, you're going to go, hey, listen, the cigarettes probably wasn't the thing that made you sick, right? It was the asbestos in the ceiling, right? You live in an apartment with 45 years that had asbestos. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that, right? Which there totally is. You could have moved, had it removed, all this other stuff, but that's an excuse for them to get sick. That's a reason for them to get sick, and that's a reason for them to, file a lawsuit, right? And you're gonna feed that to them via approval. You're gonna go, hey, listen. I mean, you're just gonna do exactly what I just did. Hey, listen. You lived in an apartment for 45 years with asbestos. Everybody knew that asbestos causes cancer. I mean, the odds were stacked against you from day one when you moved in and nobody bothered to tell you, right? Then you're going to go into something that is called future pacing. So what's going to happen is you're going to go, hey, listen, if you leave this untreated, here's what's going to happen to you, right? And then you go, but listen, if you do find a solution, here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop experiencing this pain. You're going to get this benefit, and you're not going to lose this thing that you currently enjoy, right? And then they have plenty of motivation at that point to do whatever it is that they want to do. They have the excuse, they know what they're going to get, and they know what they're going to avoid, and then boom, what's going to happen is they are going to mentally do a check called the can I see myself doing blank check, right? So I'm a big believer that anything is possible for any human being. Um, Now, I'm pretty delusional in that. I don't think that I'll ever be 7 feet tall. However, if you were like, hey man, like, you're only 5'6", but I think you could become a professional, basketball player. Like, I doubt it, but I guarantee you that there is some basketball player out there who is 5'6", who's a pro, right? I mean, there's just got to be one. And so, if the prospect can see themselves filing a lawsuit against their apartment to get money for cancer, they're going to do it. And that's really all that matters, right? If they can see themselves doing it, they're going to do it. If they can't see themselves doing it, they're going to think of reasons not to do it, right? Now, when they see themselves being able to do it, they're going to think of an excuse as to why they should do it, right? And so, like I said earlier, stories can bring up excuses through spreading activation. So when I tell a story about how somebody bought their wife a car, they're gonna take that analogy and they're gonna put it in their own context, right? When I tell them that somebody took my course and they took somebody else's course and they became financially wealthy, well, they like financially wealthy people, and so they want to be financially wealthy people, right? So they want to act like a financially wealthy person. And if a wealthy person buys my course, then that's what they're going to do. Last, and certainly not least, you can actually ask them questions. It's called the question close. The client basically closes themselves, right? So you go, you ask them questions, and even if they don't answer them out loud, they answer them in their head. If I go, hey, listen, what's your favorite sex position? You're going to immediately think of it. If I go, hey, what's your favorite color? You're going to immediately think of it, etc., right? And then last, and certainly not least, once they're ready to take action, all you have to do is tell them what to do. And they're set. They are set. And that's how to get people to take action.